Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another 30-foot drop tapping in webinar. I hope everybody is healthy and safe out there, especially in these times of uncertainty. So tonight we are going through part 1 out of 6 of our webinars, where we are looking at why businesses should employ people with impairment. So let's dive right in. 30-foot drop acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and community. We pay our respects to them and to their cultures, and to elders both past and present. We would also like to acknowledge the Department of Communities, Disability Services for funding this and many other initiatives. Without their support, so many projects such as Two Wise Monkeys would never actually see the light of day, and as a community we would be so much poorer for it. So this workshop is part of the Realities and Advantages of Access and Inclusion Grant, awarded to 30-foot drop as part of the Information Linkages and Capacity Building Grants of 2018 to 2019. Okay, a quick little bit of housekeeping. First up, unfortunately we do not have the resources to monitor all of our live streams at once. So, if you have any questions or want to interact with us at all, please head to www.30footdrop.com.au/live and enter any questions that you have there. That will be the only stream and the only data stream that we will actually be monitoring whilst we're doing this live. Okay, so that address again is www.30footdrop.com.au/live. Now, we're going to be covering a lot of information in a short amount of time, so we recommend that attendees take actions to minimise distractions. And also, if you can't watch all of this in one hit, that is absolutely fine. We are going to be recording each and every single live stream that we do and uploading them both to our YouTube and our Vimeo channels. So you can head there and catch up on anything that you've missed. Or you can go there to review any of your content or share it with others. Okay, if you go there, please subscribe, like, press the notification bell. These things all really help to get us out there. We'll also be referencing research during our session today. And everything that we reference within our presentations, you will find the original documents themselves in the 30-foot drop digital resource library at the 30-foot drop website. Okay, there is a lot of free content there to have a look at. We've got some amazing stuff in there, from Australian standards interpretations and checklists, all the way through to research and studies that have been done. Okay, there is some amazing stuff there. I really encourage you to get there and have a look through it. It's really, really awesome. Last bit of housekeeping. We have a short survey that we would really appreciate you filling out. So it is 6 questions, 30 seconds, and you'll find it at the 30footdrop.com.au/live page. Okay, when you go there and you scroll down, you'll see that there are 6 links there to different surveys. This is webinar part 1. Okay, so if you could go there, fill it out, okay, it would really, really help us out. Quick introduction for you guys who have never seen me and have no idea who I am. I am Ben Aldridge. I am the Managing Director of 30-foot drop, and I also have a magnificent moustache, as you can see. Look, I am your wise monkey for this evening. I am see no evil out of the wise monkeys. I see no evil because I have an obvious disability or impairment. I'm a C5 quadriplegic. It's very obvious because I need to be in a wheelchair to get around. It's a little bit hard to hide that. Okay? Now the reason that I am see no evil is because by the end of tonight, hopefully you will see no evil about disability and impairment with the information that you've learned here. My co-presenter Lisa, who did this morning's webinar and will be doing another one tomorrow evening, she is hear no evil. Tomorrow evening? Yeah, tomorrow evening. But anyway, she is hear no evil. I'm not going to ruin her story because it's absolutely amazing, okay? But she is hear no evil because she has an invisible impairment, okay? This means that she functions slightly different to everybody else, and you wouldn't realise it unless she told you, which is why she's hear no evil. because with the information you gathered here today, you will hear no evil about disability and impairment. Excuse me, there it is. There. Notification just came up for some reason. Here we go. But isn't there normally 3 wise monkeys? Okay, why am I stopping at just 2? Well, the third wise monkey, speak no evil. It's going to be you guys. Okay, by the end of tonight, you will speak no evil about disability impairment because you will realise what amazing employees that they can potentially make to your business. So, how are we going to do this? How are we going to get you started on what we like to call the path to the wise monkey? First up, we're going to examine and bust some common myths around employing somebody with an impairment. Okay? These myths are amazing and I think they will absolutely blow your mind. After that, we're going to get down to brass tacks and look at the subsidies available when employing somebody with an impairment and how you can access them. Okay? Not only do they make great employees, but they also cost you less as well, which is absolutely amazing. The final subject is looking at workplace modifications, how you as a business can access funding for these. Okay? And to finish it off, we will do an open forum session. Now, how are we going to do this? How are we going to cover it? Well, 30-foot drop, we are all about, let's see if I can move over enough so you can see. Oh, I'm moving the wrong way. There we are. Okay? Educating the community through open, honest conversations. Okay? Which means that our teaching method is all about having fun, open, honest conversations with you guys. Okay? Now, in order to facilitate this, really encourage you to head to www.30footdrop.com.au/live. Okay, and use the chat box in there. We love interacting with the people who are watching this. It's so much fun. Okay? And now you'll notice that there is very little written content on my slides. And that's because you're here to interact with me, pretty much. Okay? So, open, honest conversations also means that you can ask anything you want. Okay? This is an AMA, Ask Me Anything style webinar. Okay? If you have any questions that don't have to be related about tonight, ask. And I will answer them honestly and completely. Okay? Now, before we get started into the meat of it, I just want to go over some terminology. Now, we're going to do this in order to reduce confusion and ensure understanding. Okay? Because there are some words that I will use that will confuse you. Okay? So the first one, and it may have already started confusing you, is the difference between a disability and an impairment. Okay? Now, I'll start off with impairment. An impairment is an injury, illness, or congenital condition that causes or is likely to cause a loss or difference of physiological or psychological function. In short, an impairment is your medical diagnosis or how you function differently to the norm. Okay? That is what an impairment is. So my impairment is that I'm a C5 quadriplegic with post-traumatic stress in remission. Okay? That's my impairment. That's how I function differently to the rest of society. Okay? But that's not my disability. Okay? A disability is the loss or limitation of opportunities to take part in society on an equal level with others. Okay? This is often due to social and environmental barriers. So it is, as the word implies, think about it, disability, disable. Okay? It is something that makes you unable or disables you from being able to access or participate in an activity, goods and service. Okay? So I'm a quadriplegic, that is my impairment. Okay? Your steps outside your shop disable me from being able to get inside to spend my money. Okay? It's a very different way of looking at it. Okay? It is the barriers that disable somebody like myself. Okay? I hope that's made sense. The next little bit of terminology is the difference between access and inclusion. So access refers to the removal or reduction of barriers, both physical and attitudinal, to the participation in the activities and functions of a community. At its core, Access focuses a lot on the physical world around us and is really easily assessed by a checklist. Now, this ease of assessment means that when a lot of businesses and organisations talk about access and inclusion, they only stop at the access, which is why I like to go over the difference between the two. Because access is not inclusion, and inclusion is not access. Okay? So access is the removal or reduction of barriers. Okay? Easily done with checklists, Australian standards, gold standards. It is very much the physical world around us, and it's easy to assess. Inclusion, on the other hand, is more a psychological state of being and is the process whereby every person who wishes to can participate fully in all aspects of an activity or service in the same way as any other member of the community. Now, here's the thing. Inclusion, you heard me say every person before. Inclusion is not impairment specific, Inclusion actually refers to every person, irrespective of age, impairment, gender, religion, sexual preference, or nationality. Inclusion is everybody knowing that they can fully participate and fully interact with all parts of the community. So to me, access is being able to get into a building. Inclusion is being able to take part in what's happening in there in a way that I feel included. So hopefully those have made sense to you, and if not, I really encourage you to head to www.30footdrop.com.au/live, and use the question and answer box there. Enter them in and I will answer any of your questions. Like I said, this is an AMA style webinar, so ask me anything. But for now, let's get into the meat of the subject and have a look at some of the myths that surround or exist when employing people with an impairment. Now, these myths, they are not just random statements that I've plucked out of the ether, They're not something that I've made up. They are actually 7 reoccurring reasons for not employing people with impairment from studies all over the world, All over the world. So, let's dig in. First up, people with impairments need expensive modifications in order to be a productive employee. Look, not true, The reality is that not everybody likes them. Impairments are like people. Every single one of them is unique, And not every one of them needs modifications. My advice is to ask any potential employees and find out what modifications they may need in order to do this job, Now, I will readily admit, that getting adaptations for impairments can be very expensive, Wheelchairs can easily cost $20,000, and having a car modified can cost upwards of $50,000. But the thing is that most of the time, somebody with an impairment already owns these things, I already have a wheelchair that I can work from. I already have a car that I can use to get around, The employer does not have to get these things for me. They are already there, So that's what I mean by most already have it. And because it's already in day-to-day use, Now, if an employee with an impairment does need a modification, they are often easy and inexpensive, There's a good chance that this isn't the first time that they've come across this particular barrier, And they will know of inexpensive, easy ways to work around it, So collaboration with any of your employees is key, They have a wealth of information about what works and what doesn't work for them, And as a final resort, if expensive modifications are required, then there is help available through a lovely part of the government called Job Access. We will discuss these a little bit later when we're talking about workplace modifications, So, myth 1. People with impairment do not need expensive modifications in order to be a productive employee, More often than not, they already have what they need, They're not going to take the piss and apply for a job that they can't do or is going to require ridiculous modifications. Okay? Not true. Myth number 2. People with impairments are frequently absent from work. Okay? Couldn't be further from the truth. Okay? So, according to the Disability Investment Group, in a study they did called The Way Forward, a new disability policy framework for Australia in 2009, 86% of employees with an impairment, okay, have the same or superior attendance compared to other workers. Okay? That's amazing. Okay? 86% have the same or superior attendance. Okay? That means on average, people with impairment take less sick days. But more than that, okay, not just when we're talking about that, people with impairment also have a reduced turnover rate. Okay? Less turnover means less onboarding costs. Okay? Onboarding costs are a killer. It always takes time, both physical money and also reduced productivity when you are bringing somebody on. People with impairment have been shown to be more loyal and have a reduced turnover rate. Now, why is this? Okay? Why is this the case? Well, it's theorised that it's due to the unemployment rate of people with impairment. Because the thing is that the unemployment rate for people with impairment is double that the rest of society. Okay? And more than actually just not being able to find a job, it also takes a lot more effort to find a job. Okay? On average, people like myself, we have to apply for twice as many jobs before even getting an interview compared to the rest of society. Okay? So due to the difficulty of employment, it's theorised that people with disability view employment as a privilege, not a right. And as a result, they are not likely to take the piss. Okay? They are more likely to go the extra mile to retain their employment. So, myth 2, busted. Okay? People with impairment are not frequently absent from work. Like anybody else, yes, we can get sick. But on average, we're at work more often. Myth number 3, people with impairment are only suited to unskilled work. Wrong. Okay? This is massively untrue. There is such a range of skills, talents, and abilities. Okay? Impairments are people. People, we all have our own skills, talents, and abilities. We all have our own qualifications. Okay? The Australian Bureau of Statistics survey of working age people with impairment who are employed, okay, found that, and this was in 2012, okay, they found the following. Almost 20% of people are working as professionals, okay? Just over 14% work as clerical and administrative workers, 15% working as technicians or trades, 11% running their own business, and a third of them are working from home. Okay? Massive range of outcomes there when it comes to what people are doing for their line of work. People with impairment are like anybody. We acquire skills, we acquire qualifications. We're good at some things, we're not good at others. Okay? Keep that in mind. That if you see somebody with an impairment applying for a job which isn't an entry-level position, have another look. There's a good chance they've got the qualifications to back up why they're applying for this to work. So, myth number 3. People with impairment, okay? They work in a wide variety of roles. They can do many, many different things. We are more than just unskilled labour. Myth number 4. My workers' compensation premiums and work health and safety incidence rates will go up. Not true! Okay, studies have shown that when... I was reading the wrong line. Employing someone with an impairment does not affect your premiums. Okay, Insurance underwriters look at your incidents history and workers' compensation claims, not the number of people with impairment that you employ. Okay? They couldn't care less. But it's not as simple as that as well. Because here's the thing. More than that, studies have shown that employees with an impairment are up to 6 times less likely to have a work health and safety incident and are less likely to lodge a workers' compensation claim. Okay? So, when I said before, insurance underwriters are looking at your number of incidences and the number of claims, well, somebody with an impairment working there has got, on average, less of both. Therefore, is likely to bring your insurance premium down, not up. Okay? Once again, it's theorised that the reason for this is, once again, people with impairment, we see the work as a privilege. We're not going to flaunt the rules. We're not going to cut corners and take risks that are going to get us fired. Okay? We are going to do the right thing. Okay? So myth 4, your workers' compensation claims, or your workers' compensation premiums are actually going to go down. Pretty cool, huh? Myth number 5. People with impairment are less productive employees. Not true. Studies show that when matched to a position that suits their ability, employees with an impairment are as productive as their counterparts. Now, here's the key, okay? When matched to a position that suits their ability. Now, you may think, oh, God, that's going to make it really hard. I don't know what somebody with an impairment can and can't do. Well, here's the thing, okay? People with impairment are not going to apply for a job they cannot do. Okay, that's the first one. The second one is matching an employee with a position that suits their ability is what you're doing when you're interviewing. You're trying to find the best match for the job. Okay? So it's the same as any other employee. You're looking at them going, are you the right fit for this environment? Are you the right fit for this team? Are you the right fit for the job? But on top of that, okay, the people with impairment being just as productive as other employees, couple it with the reduced absenteeism, reduced work health and safety and workers' compensation, and increased retention that I've brought up in the previous myths, I really hope that it's starting to make sense to you, that something's starting to click, okay? And lastly, people whose productivity is significantly reduced as a result of an impairment may consider the supported wage system. We will cover this later in the session when we're looking at subsidies, okay? It's a very interesting subsidy, and it is available if it becomes an issue, okay? But like I said, when matched to the right position, they are just as productive. Myth 6, workers with impairment will not fit into my workplace. Not true. Come on guys, we're human. We're the same as anybody else. We have loves, we have hates, we have passions, we follow sports, we go on holidays, we watch TV, okay? We are human. On top of that, in most cases, co-worker acceptance comes with the awareness and observing that workers are competent and efficient in their jobs. This is regardless of impairment. Think about it. When somebody new starts work next to you, okay, all you're worried about is, can they do the job effectively, or are they just going to make more work for me? And as soon as you realise that they're all right at their job, they're picking this up pretty good, this is awesome, that's when the acceptance comes in. Okay, it's the same when you're employing somebody with an impairment. Okay, you get them in the right role, acceptance will come in no time. Okay, on top of that, people with impairment make up 20% of the Australian population, give or take. There is a high likelihood that clients and co-workers have a relative or friend with an impairment. Okay, this creates common ground and connection, which helps with fitting into the workplace. And lastly, Studies show that employer initiatives in hiring people with impairment have positive bottom line results, okay, and increased staff morale, as well as community recognition as good corporate citizens, okay. All of these things are important, okay. So, hell, that's 6 myths so far that we've covered, and each one of them is saying these guys make pretty damn good employees, and they do, okay. Here at 30 Foot Drop, I put my money where my mouth is, okay. Myself and all of my employees, we all have impairments, okay. And as an employer, I couldn't be happier, okay. The people that work for me are awesome. They do a great job. They're passionate, okay. They get right into it. They get right onto it. They don't take the piss. It is so good as an employer to have people like that. They make your life so much easier. So why don't you give it a go yourself? Let's move on to the last one, because this may be why you're thinking that this wouldn't be for you. Okay, and this is myth number 7. If I employ somebody with impairment and they don't work out, I can't discipline or fire them. Not true. Okay, employing a person with an impairment is the same as any other worker. You must establish clear performance expectations from the start. If they are unable or unwilling to do the job, then you can take further action as normal. There are no special laws that prevent you from disciplining or terminating an employee who is unable or unwilling to do their job. Okay? There is no special laws. We are the same as any other employee. Okay? You need to make sure that you do that and that you follow that. So, hopefully those 7 myths have shown you that people with impairment make pretty awesome employees. They really, really do. And we've had a look at the stats. Now, how about we start to have a look at some bottom line, okay? Subsidies, okay? When employing a person with impairment, there are various opportunities depending on the job seeker's profile and role, okay? These subsidies are designed to offset training and other costs during the initial period of employment, okay? As I said earlier, onboarding costs are a killer, okay? These subsidies help to offset that, to make it an easier transition for you, okay? They make an amazing difference, they really do, okay? These subsidies can be released as a lump sum payment, or they can be flexible payment as well. Now, all of these subsidies that we're about to go on to, they are contingent on the following, okay? The first one is that the award rate is being paid, okay, for the role that they are in. The second rule that it has to be contingent on is that the minimum hours must be worked as per agreement. As you'll see when we start to go through the subsidies, there are a minimum hours that you have to agree with, agree to actually supply this person as you go through. Now, these amounts are actually an average over the time of the subsidy, okay? So, if your subsidy is 6 months long, okay, and the agreed hours per week is 8 hours a week, okay, it is an average of 8 hours per week over the 6-month period. If your employee does 16 hours a week for 3 months and then has nothing for the next 3 months, then you still get the subsidy because they worked an average over that time of 8 hours a week. Okay, so it's working on average. And the last thing that's contingent on is that the employee must be registered with a disability employment service provider. Disability employment service providers are an amazing value add and resource for employers. Okay, they are so good at what they do. They're so good, in fact, that I've actually made a section of them in the next webinar number 2 out of 6. Okay, which is where we look at how to employ people with impairment. Okay, we'll go over them there. They are amazing. Okay, but in order to get a hold of the subsidies, the employee that you're looking at must be registered with a disability employment service. So those are the rules that the subsidy is contingent on. Okay, there are 4 options when it comes to the wage subsidies. Now, What I'm about to go through, these are basic outlines and some further criteria may apply. Okay, so make sure that you cover that off with a disability employment service provider. Okay, these are the 4 options as an overview. So option number 1, really creatively named the wage subsidy. Now, this is a $1,500 subsidy, okay? And the requirements for this is that the employee must average a minimum of 8 hours a week over the length of the subsidy. Remember what I said before, average, okay? The employment period must be a minimum of 13 weeks duration. That's about 3 months, okay? But when the agreement is entered into, there has to be an expectation of 13 weeks more, making up to a 26-week agreement. Now, here's the thing. If the job has to end at 13 weeks due to a downturn in the market or unforeseen circumstances, then you still get the full subsidy paid. Okay, you will still get the full $1,500. Okay, something to bear in mind. Okay, so that is the wage subsidy. And subsidy number 1, $1,500. The next one is called Wage Start, okay? And now you'll notice that these amounts have gone from the smallest subsidy to the highest subsidy, okay? So Wage Start, okay, is a $6,000 subsidy. So we're going up a fair bit here. But with more money comes more requirements, okay? So the first requirement is that the employee must be under the age of 50 years old at the time of employment, okay? The second thing is that the employee has to be a longer-term unemployed job seeker. Okay, so this is somebody who has been actively searching for a job for the last 52 weeks or a year, okay, or longer. So this is to encourage employers to take on people who have been out of work for a while, okay? They have to average at least 15 hours per week, okay, and the life of the subsidy is a 26-week duration, okay? $6,000 is pretty good amount. Longer-term unemployed job seekers under the age of 50, okay? Pretty good. Now we're going on to the big mama, okay? This is the restart subsidy. This is $10,000, okay? This is pretty good, okay? So, but like I said, as the amounts go up, the requirements do get a little bit more stringent. So in this case, the employee has to be over the age of 50. Okay. They also need to be a longer-term unemployed job seeker. Okay. So once again, looking for a job for over a year. Okay. And it's active job search as well. And the minimum average hours, at least 20 hours per week. Okay. So, and it's a 26-week minimum. Okay. So like I said, the subsidies are amazing. These are designed to offset the costs during the initial period of employment. Okay, it's pretty amazing. And these are amazing advantages to actually employing people with impairment. Now, the fourth and final subsidy, okay, I alluded to it earlier. It is called the supported wage system. Now, this one is a little bit more complicated, but in short, it revolves around the concept of fair pay for fair work. It allows candidates who cannot perform all job requirements to receive a productivity-based wage and so as not to disadvantage the employer financially. Okay, so this is for people whose impairment is such that there is no way that they could be as productive as other employees. Okay, so this is designed for them. Now, how they work it out is that it's actually an assessment-based subsidy. So an independent assessor comes in and determines the gap between the actual productivity, so what the employee is actually doing right now, okay, and then compares it to what the expected standard is. And then they actually do that as a percentage of the hourly rate possible. So, for example, if it's determined that somebody with an impairment is producing work to 70% of the required productivity, then the relevant award is applicable, but only at 70% of the amount per hour. Okay? As I said, it is a little bit more complicated, but is very good for allowing you to employ people who would normally not get the chance. Okay? So, how can employers access these amazing subsidies? Okay? Basically, you contact your local disability employment service provider. Okay? To do that, jump on the net, just search Disability Employment Service and then your area, and it'll come up with a whole list. Okay? Get in touch with them. Now, like I said, we'll be covering disability employment service providers and their roles in the next webinar, okay, when we look at how to employ people with impairment. If you're really curious, I really encourage you to tune in for that one, okay, because it will really help you out. We go through a few tips and tricks for employers when it comes on how to prepare your business to employ people with impairment. Okay, on to the final subject. Before I do, I just want to remind everybody, and for those who haven't been here or weren't here for the start, if you want to interact with us or ask us any questions, please head to www.30footdrop.com.au/live. And from there, you can use the chat box. So, into the final part. Workplace modifications. Now, we cannot talk about workplace modifications without talking about job access. So, let me first up explain what job access is, okay? Job access is the national hub for workplace employment information for people with impairment, employers and service providers. This quote is taken directly from their website. That is what they do, okay? They are fully funded by the Employment Assistance Fund. So basically, they are funded by the government. They are a free service for you to access. Okay? And they offer financial assistance for workplace modifications that assist people with an impairment to gain meaningful, lasting employment. Okay? So that's what job access is. Now, workplace modifications. What do I mean when I say workplace modifications? What can you get job access to help you with as far as workplace modifications go? What can you use these funds for? Well, these funds can be used for the following workplace modifications. So, things such as making adjustments to your physical workplace, whether that be getting new doors, getting a ramp, getting an elevator. If any of these things are needed in order to offer somebody meaningful and lasting employment, then there's a place that you can apply for help with that. You can also use it to get modifications for work vehicles, special equipment for the workplace, information and communication devices, Auslan interpreting services, specialist services for employees with specific learning disorders and mental health conditions, disability awareness training for the workplace, including deafness awareness, as well as mental health awareness and mental health first aid training. Okay? There is a lot that you can do here. Now, I find that workplace modifications through job access are a massive value add to the employer. Okay? When you think about it, if you can access things like disability awareness training, mental health awareness, mental health first aid, these things that normally you would have to fork out for yourself, suddenly you can get assistance with paying for those. What a value add to your business, okay? So, how do you apply for these things? Now, first up, as a note, okay, most disability employment services will actually facilitate and arrange any assessments that are required, okay? So if you're employee or potential employees through a disability employment service provider, they will give you a hand with this. But if you want to do it yourself, that is absolutely fine, and it is a very easy thing to do. So the first thing is that you jump onto the Job Access website, and it is very easy to fill out. They have a form there, they have so much assistance there, it's accessible, it's an amazing website. They do such a good job of assisting you, okay? So you jump on there, and then they will help you fill it out. Then you submit the application to them, and then they'll actually go ahead and assess the application. Now, if it isn't successful, they'll tell you why, and they'll run it through. Now, sometimes it's because you need another quote, sometimes it's because you didn't explain it properly, okay? They will let you know, and once again help coach you through if you want to reapply. If it is successful, Job Access will actually advise you if a workplace assessment is required. Now, a workplace assessment may take place if you are asking for a large modification. Basically, they're not going to just throw out the money willy-nilly. They're actually going to want to make sure that this is actually a required modification. So, if an assessment is not required, the workplace just goes ahead, purchases goods and services, and they get reimbursed by Job Access. If an assessment is required, okay, Job Access will arrange a specialist to confirm the workplace changes. As I said, they will actually get somebody out there to have a look. Now, this is free of charge, okay? The specialist, they will organise them to come out and have a look. It's no cost to you, okay? Which is amazing, because if you actually stop and think about it, if they're sending out an OT or an engineer or something like that, okay, as a savvy business owner, you could actually ask them other questions whilst they're there. Most of the time, I've found that they are very willing to answer any other questions that you have, even if it's not strictly related to the modification that you're doing. Okay, so there's a nice little value add for you. And then if they say, yep, it's definitely required, then the workplace purchases the goods and services and gets reimbursed by Job Access. Pretty easy, huh? Well, it is. It really is. Now, like most funding available through the government, there is, of course, caps in it, because at the end of the day, you could completely knock down a building and rebuild it on what they're saying in order to do workplace modifications. So there is caps in place. Okay, let's quickly go through them. So the first funding cap is the physical workplace adjustments. Okay, so the physical adjustments to the workplace is capped at $30,000. So you're not able to access enough to completely get a new elevator for free. But $30,000 is better than a kick up the okay? And once again, if you're a savvy employer, okay, what you do is when the when you're organising for the builders to come out and do the elevator work, make sure that you get any other work that you're doing around the place done at the same time. That way you're going to save on the call-out fees that they do, okay? Also, I've found that often you'll get a discount on bulk work, okay? So that's the first one, $30,000, better than the Swift kick up the Watson, okay? The next caps are around the Auslan interpreting, okay? So Auslan Level 1 interpreting is for work-related activities for employees who are deaf or have hearing impairment. This includes remote interpreting and real-time captioning. Okay, so it's capped at $6,000 for every 12 months. Amazing, like when you actually think about it, that is absolutely amazing. Making sure that an employee who's going to be an amazing employee, you remember some of the myths and that we covered? Okay, you're going to be an absolutely amazing employee, and on top of that, you can actually access help with the Auslan interpreting required to have that employee. It's brilliant. Auslan Level 2 is for job interviews and related activities such as site visits, completion of tests, and information sessions for people who are deaf or have a hearing impairment. This funding is uncapped. Okay? What I love about this is that it means you can cross the idea out of your head that until the person who requires the interpreting is employed, you're going to have to fork out for it. You don't. Okay? All of that interpreting can be paid for through this funding. Auslan Level 3, and I love this one. This is a great value add, okay? It's to help co-workers receive training, in this case Certificate 2 in Auslan, to communicate with employees who are deaf or have a hearing impairment and who use Auslan as their main method of communication. Okay, it's capped at $855 per every 12 months. Now, I call this a value add because so few businesses can offer even the most basic Auslan services to their customers. Okay? It's a value add because suddenly you have employees within your business who can communicate in basic ideas to and from people who require Auslan. The freedom and independence people get from being able to communicate directly rather than through an interpreter will draw these people to your business, which is why it is a massive value add. And speaking of value adds, is the final one, and that is disability awareness training for your workplace. Okay, this is capped at $1,500 for each employee with an impairment within a 12-month period. Now here's the thing. The disability awareness training itself has to focus upon the impairment of the employee. Okay? And explain to the co-workers how best to interact, how to get the most out of their new co-worker, whether it's through communication or productivity. Now, here's the thing, okay? You can't go ahead and teach highly advanced concepts about specific impairments until you have given the attendees the basic awareness training. Okay, so this disability awareness training is something that we offer here at 30 Foot Drop. Okay, and what I do is I split it into two parts. The first part is disability awareness training. The second part focuses a lot more on the employee's impairment. This disability awareness training is a value add because it increases your employees' confidence and ability to properly serve people with impairment. A market that, if you watch some of our later webinars, okay, part 3 and 4, you'll soon find out that this market, we are larger than you think and we have money to spend. Problem is that we have nowhere to spend it. So that's why it's a value add. Okay? Yeah, so if you're interested in that, please get in touch with us, 30footdrop.com.au. And that is the content for this evening. I really hope you guys have enjoyed that. As you have seen as we've gone through, or heard as we've gone through, people with impairment make amazing employees for so many reasons. You know, through all the reasons around productivity, attendance rates, retention, through to reducing work health and safety rates, the bottom line when you're looking at subsidies, and the availability of workplace modifications. There's so many reasons why to employ people with impairment. Now, we get to the fun bit. Q&A time. Open forum. For those that aren't hanging around for this, okay, and are going to leave, thank you very much for being here. Please take the time to fill out the questionnaire that I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar. Find it at www.30footdrop.com.au/live. Scroll down the bottom and there is webinar part 1. Fill out the survey, 6 questions, 30 seconds. Really, really appreciate it. Really, really helps. For those that are hanging around because you have questions that you want to ask, as I said at the beginning, we do an Ask Me Anything style webinar. You can ask me any question on any subject and I will do my best to answer them. Okay, it doesn't have to be about what we'll talk about tonight, it can be anything. I am an open book. In order to do this, you need to head www.30footdrop.com.au/live and use the chat there. Okay? So I'm going to give you guys until 6:55 to ask me any questions that you have, at which point I will come back online and answer them live for you. So, yeah, jump on over to the webpage, ask me the questions, and I will chat to you guys soon. And we're back. All right. It looks like, unfortunately, we do not have any questions yet. Or any questions, sorry. So, with that, we'll leave it there for the night. So, look, everybody, look after yourselves. Look after each other. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Catch you next time.